On today's episode of the McCann Dogs Podcast,
I often will recommend to our students that they keep a loose journal so that they can learn about their puppies, because there's sort of generalized rules of how long they can hold their bladder, etc. But every puppy's different.
and now, Instructor Shannon.
Welcome back to the McCann Dogs Podcast. It is season 4, and I am in the studio today with Instructor Swanee. Say hi,
Hi,
Swanee.
everyone.
And I'm Instructor Shannon, for those of you who have just tuned into the podcast for the first time. Welcome, and we're thrilled that you found us. We are going to talk today a little bit about house training. And house training is something that boils down to a couple of key items that need to be in place. I've not had any humongous struggles house training any of my puppies because I have used these steps and I've been very proactive with them. So we're going to talk about some of the really common mistakes that people make when it comes to house training that will lead you down the path that will challenge and create more trouble for you and your puppy. And we are going to talk about the common solutions for that we use that will help you get on the right track and keep things nice and even. So before we get to that, Instructor Swanee, have you had any real challenges when it comes to house training? Any dogs that were really tough?
I had one dog that was very difficult to housebreak.
Okay, who was that?
It was Cowboy, my Saluki. And it's not that it was difficult. It took extra long for a few reasons. So
okay, why do you think?
Well, one of the reasons was when I got Cowboy, I also had a 2-year-old child. And I was living by myself, and it was January.
So where were Cowboy and the 2-year-old child living then if you were living by yourself?
Out in the shed. I kept them in the shed. No, no. But so it was just me and those two.
Okay.
And Cowboy had come from a breeder who kept them under heat lamps.
Okay.
And so Cowboy had lived her entire existence under a heat lamp.
Oh, like all the way to 8 weeks?
Yep.
Okay.
Actually, no, all the way to 11 weeks. She didn't let them go until 11 weeks.
Okay.
So all the way to 11 weeks, Cowboy had basked under a sunlight. And being a breed that is from the Middle East, they like warm. And she was a smooth, and she was very smooth. So she, anything below 90 degrees, she thought was chilly.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So I brought Cowboy home in January.
Oh, so therein lies the challenge. January, we're in Canada
Right.
and Ontario, so January is not a pleasant month for
Right.
little dogs who like it 90 degrees and above.
And I had a 2-year-old toddler. So normal housebreaking tactic is to run the puppy out of the house. And so the first time I did that, all of a sudden I realized I've just left an unattended 2-year-old in my house.
Oh, yes.
Also, I have a screaming puppy that the neighbors are going to, wonder what's happening. She was screaming because of the cold.
goodness.
She's like, holy man, it's cold. So it's like putting an ice cube down your back. So I ran back in with her, and my son Ty is at the window crying because mommy's dessert. Already he's jealous because now there's a puppy that's vying for mommy's affection.
Oh.
And now mommy's running outside and deserting him in the house.
Oh my goodness.
And all of a sudden, what I've just done by getting this puppy has hit me. Like, oh no, I'm going to have to do some problem solving. So that's and she was so I we can talk about the problem solving I did later if we choose to. But and being a hound, I found she just took a little bit longer. The Saluki is a breed that's notorious for taking a while to housebreak. So,
and actually, let's dive into some of the problems or some of the tactics that you used to solve that problem, because I know that you had to think outside the box and go outside of the traditional methods. So, and I think it will be helpful for a lot of people who end up going down the path of pee pads out of necessity, like you did.
Yes.
So there's very few times when we would actually recommend using pee pads. Normally, they will actually set your house training back because they cause confusion in a lot of cases. So having the puppy think that it's okay to go in the house because there's this pee pad there will often make your house training harder. But in reality, some people live in condos, some people live in situations like what you're describing.
Yes.
So how did you use the pee pad to make sure that you were not setting Cowboy up to be confused?
Okay, so what I decided, it's like I cannot leave my child in the house, and I cannot take this ice cold little puppy outside in our winter. And I decided I'm going to go the pee pad route. And I'd never done that before with a puppy. So I did a little bit of thinking. I was very lucky in my house that I had an area at the back door, just to the side of the back door, where I could put these pee pads.
Okay.
Because I knew I eventually needed Cowboy to go to that back door to tell me she needed out. So it was very important to put the pee pads at the back door. I also decided I wanted to make it an area to keep my child out of too, because I don't want a 2-year-old falling flat on his face in a used pee pad. So there was a few things to consider. So
that's probably good.
Yes. I got an exercise pen, and that's one of those, those pens that you can set up in a circle.
Right.
And I got...
It's like a little temporary fencing.
Right, yes. It didn't have to be tall or anything. It just had to be something that I could corral the pee pads in. And I left a little opening. It was one that didn't have a door. It was one that is just a sheer fence, and you bring it around and clip it shut. I left it open a little bit, and we put pee pads in it.
Okay.
And I gave my 2-year-old instructions that you don't go in there. That's Cowboy's private area. It's her bathroom. And I think once he realized it was a bathroom, he's like, well, I don't want to go in there anyway. It's gross. And that's where I took Cowboy to go to the bathroom. So I'd do the same watching. And as soon as I felt she was going to go, zoomed her into that pee pad room. So she had her own little pee pad room. And, good girl, that's great. So she picked up actually that pretty quickly is,
Good.
you run to the pee pads. And of course I kept the area extremely clean because that's in my house. Then when the weather started getting warmer, so that was about in March.
Okay.
I felt, I want her to start going outside now. I still had the issues with my son, but because it's getting warmer, I can kind of grab him under one arm and grab Cowboy under the other, and we both run out together. So what I did was I started making the pee pad area smaller, and I started putting pee pads outside.
Okay.
Where I wanted her to go.
Bridge the gap, so to speak. Yeah.
So I took the pee pads where I wanted her to go, and I got some rocks, and I weighed the pee pads down. And now when she started to go to that area, I intervened, and out we went on the pee pads, and there she would go.
Perfect.
So it did work out. It worked out well, but I think one of the important things I did was I had the pee pads at the back door, so it could be easy for her.
Well, and you had a plan in place. So you weren't just, I'm going to do this temporarily and then we'll see what happens in the spring. You had a plan in place so that you could easily transition. And I think that is a huge part of the success factor.
Right, yes.
So.
And I think if I lived in an apartment, I would probably do the same thing with a young puppy.
Yeah.
I think I would put my pee pads at the apartment door and go from there.
Yeah, or if you have a balcony in your apartment or your condo, that might be a good option, depending on weather, of course, and all of those factors. But yeah, that's great. Mm-hmm. Fabulous. Thanks for sharing that.
Yes, but I'd never used pee pads before, and I've never used them since.
Yeah.
It was just that one dog.
I've never used them myself either. So I actually tried with Reggie when we, my partner is an avid sailor, and we spent a lot of time on the sailboat. And there were moments where, of course, I wanted to be able to have Reggie go to the bathroom. So we didn't have to go to land for him to go to the bathroom. But of course, don't want him peeing on the boat. Mm-hmm. So I tried to set up a little litter box and pee pad, and unfortunately he was not comfortable with using it at all. So I think it was just a bit too late in his life, and I did not persist in forcing the issue. I thought, you know what, it's fine. We'll just go to shore when he needs to go to the bathroom, and all will be great. And it just added to our adventure. So my singular pee pad association did not work out nearly as well as yours with Cowboy.
Right, yes.
So, alrighty. So some of the common mistakes that will set your house training back, and the biggest mistake I would say people make is that they assume that the dog knows that we want them to go outside and not inside. Mm-hmm. They assume that the dog knows that it's wrong to go inside, and all of those assumptions will lead you down the wrong path, because dogs being dogs, and especially dogs raised in-house by breeders who have gotten used to going in a specific area inside the house, or maybe, going to the other piece of the whelping box or something of that nature, but still going inside the house. That's what they've learned up to this point. So that's their association. So then we bring them to our house, and there's no whelping box generally. There's not the same setup. So they just figure they should go when they're going. There's also an assumption, I think, that puppies can hold it.
Right.
and people will assume that the puppy is capable of holding it. And if, again, in this litter situation with a breeder, what do you think is happening with that puppy when they're in a whelping box and they just walk to one side to pee?
They just feel they can go wherever.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
So they've had 8 weeks, 9 weeks, 10 weeks of just stopping and going, or going to the spot, without any thought.
Yeah, exactly.
Without any thought at all.
And that's really the point that I wanted to touch on, was the fact that they don't have the ability to control those muscles yet because they've never had a need to.
Right, yes.
And they've not developed that. So you assuming that your puppy can hold it is also a bit of a mistake. So
it's like a baby in a diaper. You just go.
Exactly.
Yeah, the baby doesn't hold it. It just goes when it gets the feeling.
Yes, exactly. So I think what are some of the common mistakes that you think that you'd bring up?
Well, I think one of the big ones is not watching your puppy.
Yeah,
yes,
that is a huge one.
We tell people you need to supervise, and I think everyone has a different definition of that's a tongue twister of what supervision is.
Wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man.
I like them. Yeah.
Me too.
But yes, like supervision means active supervision.
Yes.
Yeah, not just going, oh, there he goes. Oh, he peed. Like
Yeah.
It's active supervision.
That is precisely it. So not supervising is a huge detriment. And a lot of puppies figure out very quickly when there's not the right supervision that, okay, well, I just walk behind this chair and go. And then, of course, people do what?
People get angry. They blame the puppy.
Yeah.
And it's entirely your fault.
And they assume spite.
Yes.
You know, a lot of the times they assume that the puppy has done that on purpose. And while they have, it's not for the reasons that we think as humans.
No, puppies aren't like that.
No, exactly.
No.
So why might a puppy go off behind a chair to pee?
Well, if they've been caught peeing by you already somewhere in the house and you were angry, the puppy says, going to the bathroom in front of the person gets them angry.
Brilliant.
I better go behind the chair where they can't see me. Maybe that's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Because puppies are innocent. They don't know.
Absolutely. And here's the thing with having an accident in the house. This is why supervision is so important. If nobody is there to supervise the puppy and say, hey, that's a mistake, the puppy thinks it's right.
Yes.
And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that nobody stopped them and gave them information to the contrary, and they don't know any different. And the other is that it's a self-rewarding behavior.
Yes.
So going to the bathroom, I mean, anytime we have to go to the bathroom, we know it feels good to sit down and go. You know?
It just sounds funny.
It does sound funny. It seems so logical when you put it on that plane.
I know.
But truly, that is a fact. When we need to go, we feel relieved afterwards. We call it relieving ourselves. We call it the dogs relieving themselves.
Right.
Like, it is self-rewarding
Yes.
for us to go to the bathroom, and it's also self-rewarding for the puppy to go to the bathroom. It feels right. It must be right. If nobody's there to tell them it's wrong, why on earth would they think any different than what they're doing?
It's like when a tree falls in the forest.
Oh.
Yes. No one hears it. No one tells it was wrong.
I feel like there should be this like sound effect of just birds chirping
Yes,
now
yes.
because the tree fell. And
I remember the first day we brought home Honda, our little Chinese crested puppy. My son remembers this day too. He was 6 and he still brings it up now that he's 20. Honda's breeder had used newspaper. A lot of breeders, put down newspaper, although maybe not as much anymore because we don't have newspapers. Yeah, that's weird. What do breeders do?
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe that's why we've gone to pee pads. But so he had been newspaper trained. And so the first day we had him home, we're watching him. And I happened to have an IKEA catalog sitting in the living room on the floor beside my chair.
Okay.
And I guess Honda had to go, and we weren't, it was the first day. We weren't quite sure of his how he's going to present himself or anything like that. And we're watching him very closely, and all of a sudden he made a beeline to that IKEA catalog and started to go to the bathroom. And of course I'm watching, so I could interrupt and get him out, but not before one little log fell out onto the IKEA catalog.
But that's what he knew.
That's what he knew,
brilliant.
and what a cute he was trying so hard. What a good little boy.
Absolutely.
And my son remembers that. Remember when Honda went to the bathroom on the IKEA catalog?
Oh, and that, like, if you think about the honesty and the effort from that puppy to say, okay, I need to go to the bathroom and I've learned to do it on this type of material.
Yes.
I'm in a new situation, but there's that type of material.
Right, yes.
I'm going to have a poop on that. I mean,
Yeah.
and
And
that's
I wasn't
just endearing. Good boy.
Yes, I wasn't angry at him. It was just
Of
like,
course.
nope,
Yeah.
that's not the right spot. Just
Yes.
in a voice just like that, and
Yeah.
picked him up. Out we went outside. When he finished outside, hooray! And we had some fun and ran around. But it was, I think back, and it was. They're so innocent, our puppies.
They truly are, and they try really hard. If we can give them the right information,
Yes.
they will try really, really hard. So you said go outside and then yay. Let's talk about people who will feed their dogs for peeing or pooing outside.
Well, we don't recommend that because, as Shannon said, going to the bathroom is relief enough. So that's your reward. Is you now feel good.
We need like a toilet flush sound effect now. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And dogs being as smart as they are,
Yes.
truly, we have seen more than our fair share of puppies who learn to fake pee so that they can get that cookie.
Yes.
So keep in mind a word of praise from you, letting them know that they're a great puppy. Way to go. That's so smart. Good for you. Praising them, maybe having a little playtime or something afterwards is going to go a very long way. Refrain from offering them food.
Right.
for
Otherwise, you're going to be spending a lot of time outdoors.
going.
Yes.
That too.
How do I get a treat? Oh, I got to go outdoors, get one? Yeah.
I know how to make that cookie machine work.
Right. Yes. Yes.
She likes it when I do this.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So that I would consider that to be another big mistake because it does confuse the puppies into thinking that there are other reasons to be going outside, etc. I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make is not having a plan and just sort of relying on the assumption that the dog will steer the behavior. And I think that is a huge detriment. So we don't have to have this incredibly elaborate plan in place with schedules down to the T, although some puppies might need that. But we do need to have a general plan of how we are going to help our puppies recognize that going inside is the wrong thing to do and going outside is the right thing to do. Right. So any other common mistakes or big mistakes that pop into your head on that?
I think the biggest mistake is not watching the puppy, like letting the puppy go into another room. Letting your children watch the puppy.
Yes.
Yeah, it needs to be. Well, some kids would be good. You know what? Because I was a good kid, and when I was about, probably 10.
I bet you weren't a good kid.
I bet once
you
I was-
were a mischievous child.
I grew up in a dog show family, so I understood housebreaking. So I think my parents probably trusted me at, 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
And that's coming from a dog show family to watch the puppy to get them out on time. So
Yeah, for sure.
I think so many problems are people just expecting too much of the puppy, not watching the puppy, giving them too much freedom. You need to use your crate.
Yes.
I can't imagine trying to housebreak a puppy without a crate.
Oh my goodness. Neither can I.
I guess that's an error when people don't use a crate.
Yeah, definitely. And that all falls into good management, the supervision, using the crate, making sure there's a house line on, and being able to redirect those behaviors. So as you mentioned, you're not angry with the puppy. You're not scolding them over the top or anything of that nature. You're not, old days when you'd smack them in the butt with newspapers and things like that.
Poor puppies, yeah.
All that's going to do is make you a mean and scary person. It is not going to help house train them.
Right.
Good information and timely information where you go, oh, that's wrong, scoop them up and run them outside and help them finish outside. That is going to be a helpful thing.
Yes.
I do have...
Sorry. I was going to say, because you hear people that say, you know what? He keeps going to the bathroom under the dining room table.
Yeah.
Well, why are you continuing to allow that to happen? Now it's a habit, and the puppy says, "Oh, I guess this is where I go." And
absolutely.
Yes.
So, just as a quick, let's talk about that. What are some of the tactics that you would take if that was the case? If somebody said to you, "Oh, my puppy has had 3 accidents 3 days in a row now under the dining room table," what's the first thing that you're going to say to them?
why is he in the dining room unsupervised?
Exactly. And then what are some tactics that you might give them to prevent that from happening?
Well, I might basically tell them, make sure he's got a long line on, make sure you are watching him 150%.
Yep.
Barricade the dining room so he can't go in the dining room.
Bingo.
You know,
Yeah.
clean that spot on the carpet really well. It's not the scent that he's attracted to, though. It's the habit. It's the habit. So,
Absolutely.
you want to clean it well, but
Yes.
it's not going to change his habit. You can clean it, you could bleach it, remove the carpet, and he'll still go to the bathroom in there.
Absolutely. And that is so brilliant. So important to point out. Situationally, dogs will repeat what they find rewarding. So if that has worked for them to get that relief in their bladder, that's what they're going to continue to try to do. So in addition to supervising very closely, even though we are humans, we have these tiny little moments where our attention might be elsewhere. In a perfect world, the dog cannot physically get back to that spot. So it's going to create other behaviors that we can then identify and help them learn to go outside.
I have a quote from Instructor Steve.
Ooh, nice. Let's do it.
What we don't prevent, we permit.
There you go. That's a good quote,
Instructor
actually.
Steve, yes.
Yeah, that's a good quote. And this is all so true when your puppy is learning and in training. Once they get to the point where they're adult dogs and they've had all these lessons already and they understand how to take responsibility for their own behavior, you will have a very hopefully long-lived dog who knows the rules and knows not to go in the house and knows all of the things that you want them to know so that we can all live harmoniously with our dogs.
Right. And one thing too is some people will get an adult dog and they assume because the dog's an adult, it knows.
This is a really good point.
But it doesn't know. So when you bring a new adult dog into the house, you're going to supervise like it was an 8-week-old puppy.
Yeah.
Even if Shannon's dog Ned came to visit me, I'm just not going to assume he knows my house is not the toilet.
It's true. Absolutely.
I'm going to
different
watch
situation.
Yeah, I'm going to watch Ned really hard for the next few days until I say, okay, Ned understands.
Yeah, that dog is so brilliant. He actually kind of house trained himself. I barely even did anything.
Yeah.
It's his association. So his breeder was phenomenal in starting the puppies. I got him at 9 weeks and flew home with him at 9 weeks. And he already had a lot of skills that he was cool as a cucumber with. And she had set them up so that first thing in the morning, she would go to their playpen or their whelping box pen or their setup, whatever you'd want to call it. And she would let them out and they already knew to run from that pen to tear outside. And I have videos of this, of course, and the whole pack of puppies just tearing outside to go to the bathroom. And then they would come back in for their breakfast after they had been weaned. And, you know, he came home brilliant. Actually, funny story. He had several moments when he first came home that first night after I got off the plane and got home from the airport and, let him out of the crate in the living room and we were hanging out and he kept squatting and trying to pee and squatting and trying to pee. And it was happening like really frequently. And I thought like, this is bizarre. Does he have a bladder infection? Like what's going on? Right. So I reached out to her and I said, did you see any signs? Is there anything that I should, I should be aware of? Any chance that you have some insight for me? And she said, no, that's really bizarre. Like no signs at all. And things were fine. And, we had spent some time together that morning before I got on the plane and I hadn't noticed it then either. So I thought that's just bizarre. And as I was trying to figure out what was going on, somehow I examined and he had a little puncture in his penis.
Oh, I remember you telling me this.
Yeah,
yes.
From one of the other puppies, those little piranhas. Oh my goodness. So I think that he was feeling that pressure and thought that he had to pee. But after 24 hours, that had sort of ended and I messaged her and I said, this is the culprit. And we both laughed about the piranhas that puppies are. Those of you who are raising puppies, they're piranhas. You've felt those needle teeth. And after 24 hours, I think that was honestly the only time he ever tried to have an accident in the house because he was already started. So all I had to do was say, this is where you pee in the outdoor space. And he was like, okay, got it. Right. No problem.
Yes.
The value of a good breeder who gets them started well is so it's hard to express.
Yes.
So,
but I'm glad you touched on that too, a different topic that sometimes there are weird things or medical reasons. Puppies can get bladder infections and they just cannot control themselves. Yes.
There's a lot going on during that time period. So there's the stress of leaving their litter mates and their mom and everything that they've known and going into this new situation. Puppies generally roll with it, but there's still some stress that comes with it. They're also on this course of vaccinations that are taxing their immune system. They're going to have changes in water when they get from their old house to their new house. There's all sorts of things that will contribute to that. So it's a very common thing. We actually see it quite a bit when we're helping people through house training issues in our programs. And we think, you know what? That's not normal. So if they're peeing really frequently, like I was just describing with Ned, if they are peeing and don't seem to really notice, they're sitting in it or lying in it and it's coming out of them, those are all signs that there could be something bigger there and it could be worth a call to the vet to get a culture and figure it out. You had said that people often will expect older dogs to come in house trained. And I just wanted to touch on that point to say that we did a podcast episode a few weeks ago with instructor Carol on rescue dogs and things to be aware of and things to set yourself up for so that you're setting yourself and the new dog up for success. And she's had several dogs that she's brought in as adults that she had a lot of work ahead of her to house train. I think that she said with New Bing, her Parson Russell Terrier, I think that she said it was 285 days or something like that. Yes. Before she finally
he had been a kennel dog and
and he had been going in the crate readily as a normal thing. So that was a really hard problem to come back from. So assuming anything is not good.
Oh, I just thought of something.
Okay.
I had told that funny story about little Honda running in and pooping on the IKEA catalog. If anyone listening has a funny housebreaking story like that, or just doesn't have to be super funny, just
funny, endearing, interesting.
Put it in the comments. We'd love to read them, and it always brings us a smile.
Absolutely. Yes. And if you are listening or watching the McCann Dogs podcast on the YouTube channel, that's where you'll be able to access comments. I know that I've heard a couple of people have emailed us saying, you ask for comments, but we don't know how to comment. So unfortunately, I don't think that the Apple podcast platforms or Spotify or anything like that allow for commenting yet. Hopefully they bring that in at some point in the future. But if you are looking to comment and join the show and jump in and interact with us, you can do that in the YouTube comments on the McCann Dogs Podcast YouTube channel.
We love interacting with you. Please share your comments at McCann Dogs Podcast on YouTube, and we'll get back to you. Happy training.
So I have one other mistake that I think people make as a common thing, and that is... Yeah, we need some lead-in music or something here. Not going outside with the puppy.
Oh, yes, that's a good one, Shannon. Yes,
well, thank you. I thought so too. So a lot of the times people think that, the dog pees
and open the door.
Yeah, the dog gets to pee outside, so I'm going to slide open the door and let them go outside, and I'll close the door because it's winter and I'm in my house coat and it's cold.
Right.
And then when my puppy comes back to the door and I hear
if
him
they ever do,
I will open the door and let them back in. And then what happens?
You don't know if they went or not.
Right. And what happens? They come in and pee.
They come in and pee on the floor. Yes.
And people say he was just outside, and then he came in and he peed all over the floor.
Yeah.
Incidentally, this happens with my 15-year-old Reggie at this point too. Right. Yeah. I've had to revert to going outside with him,
right?
Because he doesn't know if he's going or not. Sometimes
right.
He's getting to that age where his back end's a little weak and the poop just kind of comes out of him sometimes, and he realizes and then starts squatting.
Sometimes it be like that.
Exactly. Poor old guy. You know what? He's 15. He can do whatever he wants. Right, honestly, every day is a gift at this point. And I want to enjoy those gifts. So he poops on the floor. I clean it up. I'm glad I don't have a lot of carpets, and it's a piece of cake to clean up. And life moves on from there. But
just
I've had
watch
to
where you walk
going
at Shannon's
outside
house.
with him to try to minimize those mistakes and those accidents. So I know if I'm watching him in the yard and he's doing his little old Reggie wander around, sniff everything moments, and then he goes, is it time for dinner yet? And he comes running back into the house. I can say,
Reggie,
hey,
so
cute. Let's go back outside and finish our business. And then generally he's like, okay, I guess I'll poop now because I want dinner.
So I always take my puppy out on a leash, and I go to the spot I want them to go, and I just stand there and I do nothing. And if the puppy doesn't go, and I think they do have to go, back in the house we go and into the crate.
Brilliant.
And then I'll try again 10 minutes later. I don't allow my puppy to have any fun in the yard until they've done their business.
Yeah, and I think that's a good call because in that moment, we want them to go to the bathroom. We want them to go to the bathroom so that we can give them a little bit more freedom in the house versus coming inside and having to tuck them back in the crate.
Right.
We want to be able to say, okay, now I know definitively that they have emptied their bladder and they've emptied their bowels, and now they're not going to have an accident in the house. And that's part of the planning process, and it's part of setting your dogs up for success in house training, is making sure that you know whether they've gone or not. And I often will recommend to our students that they keep a loose journal so that they can learn about their puppies, because there's sort of generalized rules of how long they can hold their bladder, etc. But every puppy's different. And you've had a lot of different breeds, and you've had a lot of different sizes in breeds. And the thoughts out there, the common thoughts out there are that smaller dogs can be harder to house train. And there's a couple of reasons that could be true. But what are your thoughts?
I have had, my Chinese Crested is a small breed, and my Sheltie was 13 or 14 pounds as an adult, maybe 14 pounds. So she was little too. I had no problem in housebreaking them. No problem.
Okay.
I was diligent. I watched them. I was aware of them.
Okay.
No problem at all.
Good. I like that answer. So there you go. You heard it here from Instructor Swanee, the small dogs. I think that they can often be a little bit harder for house training because they go quicker in smaller amounts.
Especially if they're hairy, because they squat. They squat to go, and they're so tiny to begin with, and there's so much fur.
Yes.
So it's
not as definitive to see happen.
Right. But you see the little puddles starting to form, and there's like, let's get outside. So,
exactly.
Yes.
So if you are diligent in your supervision until they're at the point where they understand how to ask to go outside, you're going to be able to catch those accidents and redirect them easily. Right. And again, a lot of it is the rehearsal factor. If they end up getting into the habit of going in the house, it makes things much more difficult for you down the road. So
right. I remember my mom, when I was a young child.
House training you?
House I don't remember that. I think I was born housebroken. Or you assume I'm already housebroken? Wow.
Yeah, you probably still have the diaper. That's the...
My mom would, I remember, tie the puppies to her belt loop. So she would go around the house doing housework, preparing dinner, and she would, you know why? I think when I was young.
Were there crates?
There was crates, but they weren't as mainstream. And I remember I remember my dad having pens in the basement for the dogs.
Okay.
Then I remember getting some wire crates, but they just weren't as mainstream. So I guess that's what people did. My mom would tie the puppy to her belt loop or her apron. She always wore an apron. And the puppy would just have to go wherever she went. And that's how she housebroke. She watched the puppy like that.
Yeah, and I think that's probably more of a traditional back in the day, because we were just starting to bring dogs inside the home.
Right. Yes.
They were traditionally outdoor creatures, and they would have their spaces outdoors, and we would throw scraps and I'm sure play with them. But they had more of a working purpose at that point. Right. They weren't necessarily the pet dog. So as they became more pets and more part of the family, we wanted to bring them inside. So
and I think people used to let their dogs run loose more too. Like open the door and the dog runs out into the neighborhood and weird,
goes and visits everybody. Actually, I remember as a child up at the cottage, we weren't able to have dogs when we were kids. I got my first dog came home as Rottweiler Quincy in 1999 because it just didn't fit into our life, unfortunately. And my mom had a really old cat for a lot of my childhood. I suppose the cat was probably younger when I was really young, but I just remember her being a very old cat. And we couldn't go to anything that would upset the old cat. I think it was just an excuse. Really. But I remember being up at the cottage, and there were people a couple of doors down that had a dog named Butchie, and it was a mix of some sort. It was probably like a bearded collie cross of some sort. And I have the fondest memories of my sister and I just playing with this dog from down the way. And, every once in a while we would hear, Butchie, come home. And then the dog would go home and do whatever.
Right.
But the dog just ran loose and played with all the neighborhood kids up at the cottage. And that was just lifestyle back then.
Yeah.
Things were different. There was a highway right there too.
Wow.
That scares me to think about now. So we were quite close to 169, which runs up through Muskoka, and it's fairly busy. Maybe it wasn't as busy back then.
Right.
Yeah. This is ancient times when I was a kid.
Yes. You had to be careful of dinosaurs. I know you've had a few stories about being chased by velociraptors.
Oh,
and
yes. I outrun them, though. That's
Right?
the thing. I've always been able to be fleet of foot and just, outrun the velociraptors.
That was a terrifying time to be alive, Shannon.
I don't think we've ever talked about dinosaurs, but I like the segue. Alrighty, so those are a lot of the common mistakes that people make. And I think we talked about some solutions in there as well. But I like to sort of break house training down into a 4-step plan. And those 4 steps are, I'll give you a broad overview of my 4 steps first, and then we'll dive into them. So supervise, schedule, feedback, and responsibility. Those are my 4 steps that I usually put into
Is
a
there an
plan.
acronym so we can remember them?
SFR. That's as good as it gets.
I don't
It's
know.
not a
No
good
one's going to
acronym.
remember that.
No, not a good acronym at all. All right, so supervise. This is something we already talked quite a bit about, and such an important piece of the puzzle because the feedback that you give your dog in that moment is going to be so important to give them.
Yes.
Schedule. What are some of the tips that you have for people about schedule for house training?
Well, one of them is not free feeding.
Yeah. That's a great one.
Yes. So I'm scheduling my puppy's meals
Yes.
so I can have an idea of when my puppy is going to go to the bathroom. What goes in must come out.
Yes, it must.
So if we know what time it went in, it gives us a better idea of what time it's coming out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's for water too. If I go, oh, he just tanked up on quite a bit of water, that's going to mean some pee coming out soon.
Yes, absolutely. And this is where I will often recommend a loose journal so that you can learn specific things about your puppy, because even though there's generalities, and I think I started talking about this and then we maybe got off track, but there's generalities that you can sort of look to. So things like their age in months +2 is about the amount of hours that they can hold it, for example. So if they're 2 months old, they can generally go for a max of 4 hours before they're going to be bursting, etc. Things like that are good sort of general ideas to give you information. However, every puppy is going to be different. They are all going to have different tactics. They're all going to have different development and different muscles with their bladder. So you really want to learn about your individual puppy and note some things like when they ate and when it came out, so that now you have a good guess point for the next time they're going to have to go to the bathroom.
Right.
When they had that drink and when that came out, so that now you have a good idea of how long it takes to go through their actual system.
Yes. And also too, a question that we get is, when am I going to be able to sleep in? And we can't answer that. Yeah. But when you bring home a new puppy, if you love to sleep into 11, those days are gone for a while.
For a little bit, yeah.
Yes. So, think of that if you like sleeping in, puppies don't like sleeping in.
Yeah,
so
it's true.
You're getting up. So it's there's a life change when you get a puppy.
Absolutely. And there's probably going to be some times where in the middle of the night, you need to get up and you need to take that puppy out to go to the bathroom. I generally will rely on about a week of time before I'll try to stop that somehow. So what do you do in terms of how long you'll get up in the middle of the night with them?
Yeah. It depends on the age of the puppy. So if I've got a 7-week-old puppy, yes, I'm getting up in the middle of the night. Yeah. I've also adopted 12-week-old puppies where I haven't had to because they're more mature and they can hold their bladder. So it all depends on the age. Yes.
Perfect. Now, I will say with my own experience, Ned is the first dog that I have not had to get up in the middle of the night for at least that first week for. Yeah. He's so brilliant.
He's a good puppy.
Again,
we should clone him.
He had already learned some bladder control before he came home to my house. I mean, these are the reasons that I'm going back to BC for my next puppy that hopefully will come around September or October of this year, is because the start that he had, it made me hit the ground running with things that I wanted to do rather than having to, put things on hold because I was working on all of the basic things with him. And it just made life such a dream. We actually talked in one of our podcast episodes recently all about like breeders and different tactics and, clarifying what breed will necessarily fit well into your home, etc. So you can have a listen to that if you're looking for more information on how to pick a great breeder who is going to set you up for a wonderful future.
Exactly.
With your puppy.
Yes. Because if you go to look at the puppies and they're in filthy conditions and they've been raised in filth, then the puppy's gonna enjoy sitting in its own filth, and that's gonna make your crate training even harder.
Yeah.
So you want a breeder who's kept the puppies clean, and the puppies appreciate being clean, not puppies who've been forced to go to the bathroom in their crates.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, that first 8 weeks can really shape your first few weeks.
It absolutely does. It absolutely does. And it's such an important piece of the equation. So bringing home a dog who's ready for the next phase of their life at 8 or 9 weeks versus bringing home a puppy who is a little worried about everything or doesn't necessarily have any insight into life, into a human world, that can often be a bigger challenge for us. So
not that, they work out, it all works out eventually, like
absolutely.
not that it's, but I would be leery of a breeder who is dirty puppies.
Yes.
Yeah,
Definitely. And just things to be aware of.
Yes.
Right? Things to help drive your decision moving forward. All right. So the third step in the training plan. So we had supervise, schedule, and feedback. And this is the praise being good enough outside, but it's also making sure that they don't rehearse the wrong thing. So if they're having an accident inside, we're not supervising and we don't know their schedule and we don't know that they're going to need to go out, that accident, if you don't catch it in the moment and say, hey, that's wrong, and give them feedback from that rehearsal will set you back because your puppies figure out that it's okay to go inside sometimes. And because there's confusion and they don't necessarily know how to say, I need to go to the bathroom, they're just going to end up going, and that rehearsal will continue to drive their behavior.
Yes.
So that is step 3. And step 4 is responsibility. And this one is once we've gotten through steps 1, 2, and 3. So once our puppies understand that they need to hold it to go outside, and we tend to use crates a lot to help build muscle memory and help build their understanding of not going in the house. You had mentioned earlier in the podcast that you would bring the puppy back inside and put them back in the crate for 10 minutes. So tell us why you would do that.
Well, I want the puppy to learn to go outside. So if I think they have to go and they haven't gone, and I bring them back in the house, there's a good chance that the moment I blink, they're going to pee on the floor.
Yeah.
So it's, most puppies don't want to soil their sleeping area, their crate. So I'm going to put him in the crate, and I think, I think he's got to go. So we're going to go back out in 10 minutes, and we're just going to stand there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And going to the bathroom earns you freedom.
Yes.
Yes.
And bringing them in the house and putting them in the crate for that 10 minutes, it's not meant to be punishment.
No.
Basically, what this is meant to do is it's meant to prevent the puppy who goes outside, and even if they go outside on a leash with you and you stand there and you plant your feet and you do all the right things and they still don't go to the bathroom. I usually give my puppies 2 minutes max because I don't want to stand outside for 15 minutes while they're chasing every leaf and I'm trying with no success to get them to go to the bathroom. So I'll usually give them about 2 minutes. If they haven't gone, okay, no problem. Scoop them up, bring them back inside, put them in the crate for that 5 to 10 minute period. And it's to give them an opportunity to work up the need to go again. Because all those leaves outside were so distracting, he forgot that he needed to go to the bathroom, which is why a lot of the times we bring them in the house and then they have an accident. It's because the distractions are less inside than they are outside. It's not because they're trying to be bad.
It's like putting a snowsuit on a toddler. It's like the toddler's all excited about going outside. Yay, snow, yay, snow. Oh, look at my snowsuit. Oh, wow. Oh, I have to pee now.
I didn't realize. Yes. I love that analogy. It's so perfect.
Yes.
So perfect. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So that is not meant to be punishment. It's meant to just give them information and feedback.
Right. It also, another thing too, it teaches your puppy to go to the bathroom quickly.
Yes.
Which is nice. And I was traveling with someone up north a few weeks ago, and we stopped at an en route, which is the Ontario, I don't know how to describe them, little gas station, snack places on the highway.
The side of the highways, yeah.
And I got out and I took Honda out and he didn't go. And I said, okay, I'm done. But it's only been a minute or two. I said, well, he would have gone right away.
Yeah.
Because Honda's been conditioned to go if you have to go. So it's like, no, he lost his chance. He knows that he didn't have to go. back in the car, we go on our drive.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will actually condition our puppies to go to the bathroom on a cue word. So as my puppies are going to the bathroom outside in the backyard, and during the teaching phase, I'll be saying, I use hurry up. So I will say, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. And then as soon as they stop peeing, I stop saying hurry up. And that creates an association. So over a week or two, my puppy will quickly learn that anytime they hear hurry up, it's associated with that bathroom duty. And then you can start to use it. Once they understand that, you can start to use it to actually prompt the behaviors. And that comes in really, really handy.
Yes.
Sometimes puppies and dogs can be really particular about where they pee. When we pee, we just pee because we need to go to the bathroom. When dogs...
Well, I'm particular. There's some toilets I will not go in, Shannon, but I've just learned something about you.
That is a really good point. Yeah, but when our puppies and our dogs pee, there tends to be a whole bunch of social etiquette surrounding it.
Yes.
So
yes. Well, we have social etiquettes too.
I'm never going to be able to pee again without laughing now. You know that, right? So when our puppies are looking for a space that's safe for them to pee, that's going to keep the area clean, that's not going to attract predators, all these natural instincts.
Right,
and then as they get into social behaviors, a smell that's going to mark territory, things like that are really important. So some dogs will they'll cross their legs and they'll squeeze it and they'll hold it forever. Right. We've had some students that their dogs will go hours and hours and hours and hours and hours in a new location holding it, and then they get home and they're just bursting to go. So we've had to help them work through those problems.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. And having that cue word to say to your puppy or your dog as they're growing, it's okay for you to go to the bathroom here. I know we're on cement and you're used to grass, but we're at the airport and this is all there is right now. So hurry up and it's okay for you to do that. It's such a handy thing to have in place. We actually have a YouTube video about how to teach that. So you can have a look at that and get some tips on how to teach the behavior of going on command.
I posted that video also on our McCann Dogs Training tips. I'm having trouble with tongue twisters. We have a Facebook group called McCann Dog Trainers Training Tips.
Perfect.
That I posted that video on there. I think last week, one day I posted that.
That's going to be your new tongue twister.
Yes.
Say toy boat 3 times fast.
Toy boat, toy boat, toy boat.
That was
toy
pretty
boat.
good.
Yeah, I've tried though.
Actually.
I tried hard.
Toy boat, toy boat, toy boat.
Toy boat, toy boat.
There it is.
No, I'm not good at tongue twisters.
I hope you're all playing along with us.
Yes,
Let us know in the comments if you were
successful
on the toy boat
And if
challenge.
you have some good tongue twisters, put them in because
that's a good one.
Shannon's good at tongue twisters.
Wacky
so
waving, inflatable arm flailing tube, man.
We need some new ones. So if you have any original ones, throw them in the comments. We'll challenge Shannon.
I would love to take the tongue twister challenge.
Yes.
The McCann Dogs tongue twister challenge. Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll feature it on a podcast. So post them.
Oh my goodness. I love that. That's so funny. Actually, I do pride myself because for some reason I'm good at tongue
I've known Shannon for many, many, many years, and she told me that probably the first time I met her.
Hi, it's nice to meet you, Swanee. I'm really good at tongue
really good.
twisters.
Yes.
That's how I introduce myself to everybody. It gives me credibility or something. Instantly.
Street cred.
Might not be credibility. It might be insanity.
Shannon didn't choose that life. It chose her.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so back to house training and the responsibility factor, which I don't know how we derailed so well, but we did a good job of it. So the responsibility factor is in once the dog understands all these factors. So once the dog understands that it's right to go outside, wrong to go inside, they have the holding part down pat, we can start to say, now it's your responsibility. You need to tell me when you want to go to the bathroom. And what are the tactics that you use? What are the signs that you look for with your dogs when they need to go to the bathroom?
Well, the dog's hopefully going to start to move towards that door. So it goes back to supervision again. So I'm going to watch my dog. And if I see them start to go towards that back door, it's like, hooray, it's coming together.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So what do you do at that point when you see them looking at the back door and trying to figure this out?
Well, I usually say, do you have to go to the bathroom? Yes, let's go. And we go to the door together. We open the door. So I'm going to do that the first few times just to reinforce to the puppy that moving to the door, like looking towards the door is good. But ultimately, I don't want a dog that stands at the back door because I don't, it depends where I'm living, but I've had houses where I don't see the back door.
Yes.
So I need to teach my puppy to come to get me first. Or sometimes I luck out and I get a dog that naturally barks at the door. Yes. So
Yeah, that's handy when that happens.
and that's always been just a natural. It's like, oh, this dog barks at the door. That's awesome. My Sheltie Atari, she would even bark when my other dogs went to the door. So she was a good girl. Aww. But most dogs I've had to teach to come and, I usually got them to come and touch me or bop me or give me a deep stare. And, that I know then they need to go out.
Perfect. Deep stare into your eyes.
Hondas has dropped down now to he goes to the door and then starts to walk to look for me, and I'll just see him like peek around a corner. So when I see Honda peeking around the corner, I know, he's got to go out.
He's saying, hey, I got to pee.
Yeah, I can't make it all the way to you.
Lady,
you meet me halfway.
I can't get the doorknob open.
Yeah.
You need to help. That's adorable. So I will actually use the tactic that I usually will use a taught tactic. Mm-hmm. So, for example, I like the deep stare. I like my dogs to come and just drill holes in me with their eyes until I clue in and say, oh, you got to go outside. And then, of course, they get the dancing feet when I say that, and we run to the back door. So I will actually teach some sort of a tactic. So you were saying I like them to come and nose bop me or something of that nature. So in setting that up, I will create the association with the back door. So I usually will have them come and sit and stare at me. So I'll just teach a sit at the back door. So whether or not we actually need to go outside in that moment, I will specifically take my dog to the back door, ask for a sit. When they do, I say yes, and the reward, rather than food, the reward is that the door opens.
Right, yes.
So they learn very quickly that sitting there works. Sitting works to get the door open. Which is great, because then I can take it one step further. Then I will start to call my dog away from the door, ask for the sit. So I might go 5 feet into the kitchen rather than being right at the back door. My back door is at the other side of my kitchen. So I might go 5 feet from the back door and ask for the sit. And when they do, yes, and I'll run to the back door and open the door. So they quickly start to figure out that action gets them to the back door and gets them to go outside. And then I basically just generalize it through the house. So once I've done 5 feet from the back door, I'll go 10 feet from the back door. Then I'll go into the living room. Then I'll go into the hallway at the front. Then I'll work on going upstairs as well and running quickly to the back door from there, so that the dogs understand I need to come and get you, and this action is what gets me outside.
Right. Yes.
So oftentimes I think people will try to put the cart before the horse, though, and look for that indication from the dog before they actually have the other things in place. So doing things in order, making sure that they have all of that understanding first, and then asking them to take responsibility will be a good tactic.
Right. Yes.
Perfect. Yes. Anything else to fill in any holes on our house training chat today?
I think we were pretty thorough.
I think we were too. All right. If you would like any further information on house training, we have lots of house training videos on our YouTube channel. We have lots of house training articles on our blog on McCannDogs.com. So lots of help for you. And we appreciate you joining us today for all the fun and hopefully some good laughs on your part as well.
Yes.
All righty. On that note, I'm Instructor Shannon.
Instructor Swanee.
Happy training.
The McCann Dogs Podcast is brought to you by McCann Professional Dog Trainers. We help dog owners to have a well-behaved, four-legged family member. Please give us a call at 905-659-1888 or visit us at McCannDogs.com. Happy training!